It was 6 a.m. in the morning when Alyssa opened her eyes. Strangely, it was the first time she did not have her nightmares. She felt refreshed, but her memory was cloudy. As sunlight came into the room, she found it hard to open her eyes completely, but after rubbing them a few times, she looked around and saw Asher, who was sleeping peacefully. Seeing him, the memories of the time they had spent in the dungeon and how she had made it out alive came rushing in. She immediately looked at her arms and saw they still looked pale. She breathed in relief. She hadn't thought about it at the time, but if the doctor had noticed her disguise and found out that she was fine, many problems would have come her way. She raised her body to sit on the bed, and the sound woke up the young man sleeping on the chair in her room. Asher slowly opened his eyes as he saw a familiar face in front of him. "I didn't mean to wake you up," Alyssa said as she noticed that Asher was awake. "It's fine." Asher stretched his neck. "Do you have my spatial ring?" Alyssa asked Asher. "Yeah." Asher took out the ring from his pocket. "Although you could store lifeless things inside the spatial rings, living things and other items with similar functions could not be stored inside them. I have the boss monster's corpse and the artifact in this ring," Alyssa said. "Give them to me after you're discharged from here." Asher handed her the ring and stood up, getting ready to leave. There were no other words exchanged between the two of them, unlike normal people who would have said some stuff, made some jokes, or had a light talk with each other after such an experience. Alyssa looked at Asher's back as he left, and a thought came to her mind, but she let it go. Her eyes drifted to the ceiling as she got lost in her thoughts. Asterisk 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 asterisk. It was early morning, but many students could be seen here and there. Many students noticed Asher as he walked towards the ranker's dorm. The medical block was in a common area that linked various sections in the huge World Academy, so it was obvious that people would notice Asher. Many eyes stared at him. Various rumors and his recent incident with Professor Irwin was still something many students liked to gossip about. Taking the exchange portal, Asher arrived at the ranker's dorm and went to his floor, which was soon about to change. He decided to take a quick shower, and coming out of the shower, he went straight to the meditation room. "System," he called out as he had not received any notifications from the system until now. "Host has crossed level 20. Amount of authority increases." Seeing this particular notification intrigued Asher. What was the dungeon defect? Asher started with the first question in his mind. "It's a result of your curse. But host does not need to worry about it for now." "How so?" Asher asked. "Even if you're cursed right now, it is not possible for destiny to intervene so directly like this time. According to my calculation, it will take a year or more for such a thing to happen again." Weird. Asher thought it was somewhat strange. Adds by Pub Future. Even if it was a C rank dungeon, was destiny so weak that only this much intervention would harm it? You could learn more if you cross the next threshold, which is level 40, Contemporary Romance. But you have gained one of the features this time as well. It is an authority that you should have gotten around level 50, but you have gained it early. Closing square bracket. To unlock it completely, you need to cross level 30. Closing square bracket. Right now, there was something that the system didn't mention, and that was the appearance of the S-rank boss monster, and that was one of the reasons it revealed itself. It was still not clear what exactly the system was and what its true form was. But host can look at the status screen to learn a bit about it. Closing square bracket. Status, Asher said, as he wanted to look at his status for now. Fate Devourer System. Name, Asher von Ravengrevel. Level, 21, EXP 2500, 21,000. Bloodline, Devil's Absorption Rank SSS. Cursed, Curse of Fate, active. Body Constitution, Mana Core Rank D. Attributes. Strength, 90. Agility, 72. Endurance, 80. Intelligence, 120. Mana, 114. Stamina, 65. Charm, 65. Fate, 10,230. AP, 75. SP, 14. Skills, time dilation, rank S, LVL1. Absorption, rank S, LVL1. Mana flow, rank A. Mana circulation, rank A. Rune of Airden, rank A. Node art, rank SSS. Aura force, passive skill. Beast, locked. Beast. Asher asked the system. Think of it as a reward from the system. Right now, your current authority is too low to know more about it. Closing square bracket. It was confusing, but none of the things that had happened until now made sense. Like the bloodline ability he got, the skills, and many more things. But a beast was something that he was looking forward to seeing. In the history of humanity, there were no cases of humans having monstrous beasts as pets. There were still a few animals that did not form a mana core and were seen as normal. That included cats, birds, dogs, etc. Apart from such harmless animals, most of the animals would evolve with mana to become a rank G beast and higher. And taming them was impossible. Ping! A notification on his phone caught Ash's attention as he saw a message from Tom Guylip. Less than Tom, boss, they have shifted the date for the artifact you told me about. Greater than. It was a short message, but it was a bit of a setback to his plans. But he had expected some changes, and it was not too bad for now. Asher replied for Tom to wait for now. It would be soon that he would be able to leave the World Academy. He had already solved the biggest issue that was hindering him from leaving the World Academy, and that was Alyssa. She was not someone who needed his protection, but now that she was cured, it gave Asher more time to spend outside the World Academy. A couple of other notifications caught his attention, but he had received them at least 6 hours ago. Less than Damien, what happened in the dungeon? Greater than. Less than Amelia, what happened? How did you get injured? Greater than. Less than Asher, don't worry about it. You will know tomorrow. Greater than. Typing the same message, Asher put down his phone as he stood up. Still feeling weak, he knew that there was still something wrong with his body. And the fact that he needed a weapon was one of his priorities, but he knew where and when to get one from. However, until the ranker's announcement, the auction that was about to happen in the World Academy would not begin. It was something that Asher was waiting for as well. After 8 hours, a notification was heard by all the first-year students in their ID bracelets. Asher stopped after performing his last sword movement, with the footwork he remembered doing in his last battle. He was trying to recreate it, but it was still fairly difficult for him. His sword art was something he wanted to improve before leaving the World Academy. Less than announcement, rankings will be announced tomorrow. Greater than. Asher looked, and he knew Alyssa had already shown every monster she had except the artifact and the boss monster. He had already gotten the message from Alyssa, that she was ready to give the boss to Asher and the artifact as well. Turning again, he got back to his training. It was something he had no reason to be concerned about, but a huge wave of excitement and anxiousness was all over the first years. Asterisk 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 asterisk. In the faculty block. What do you mean that Vice Principal Xander will do all the changes? A professor asked while slamming his hands on the table. It was something the principal himself agreed upon, another female professor replied while shrugging her shoulders. What's the point of giving us authority to mark students when we can't even decide? The angry professor spoke with an annoyed look on his face. Why don't you say this to Vice Principal Xander, Professor Algus? Professor Dahlia said. What do you mean by that, Professor Dahlia? He stuttered for a bit. I mean, if you want to go challenge his authority, you can do so. She said while the other professors kept watching. Professor Dahlia and Professor Agas, this meeting is not about both of you fighting over such things. Another professor spoke out, he was nearly as old as Nathan. And the way Agas and Dahlia went quiet meant they respected the man enough not to argue with him. Our job is to teach and assess the students. Leave the other things to our principal, he said. Yeah, if Professor Joseph is fine with it, why are you about this? Elsa replied as she was also present in the meeting. This meeting was a bit special as it revolved around the change in structure of classes they wanted to implement this year. It seems I have arrived a bit late. An old-looking fellow with a long beard came in with a smile. It's fine, Professor Neiman, we still haven't started yet, Joseph replied. Let's start with our first issue, the vacancy in the sword arts class. The meeting started, and a few of the professors were happy as they would see the results of their planning tomorrow. Right now, most of them were quiet because all the professors that were talking right now were people who had 3 stars and were some of the most respected individuals in the World Academy. Professor Erman, you have the list, right? A staff member asked the man standing before him. I do, but Vice Principal Zander is announcing the rankings, right? Arman said while texting someone on his phone. The staff member nodded as Arman disappeared and appeared in a big temple-like building. As he stepped in, multiple security protocols activated and started scanning him. Less than identity confirmed, access granted greater than. Less than welcome, Professor Erman, you may enter the vault now greater than. The robotic voice said as the doors opened, revealing a path for him. In the seminar hall, students were flocking into the seminar hall, from class 1 to 5, every type of student trying to find a seat for themselves. A mix of emotions could be seen on the faces of the students present in the seminar hall. Some were excited, some were anxious, others were calm, and some didn't care about the whole thing. Hey, let's go sit in the back, a student said to his friend, who was looking for some seats in the front. What? But there are empty seats in the front rows. His friend asked. Dumbass, do you want to sit near those elite families' kids and invite unnecessary trouble? He replied. Now, take those seats with me before they get taken. He dragged his friend before the seats filled up. Many other students thought similarly, and a particular pattern could be noticed in the seating arrangement in the seminar hall. Those from a reasonably good background were in the middle, and those from ordinary backgrounds were in the back rows. Most of the high-profile students were sitting in the front seats, but some oddballs didn't care about such arrangements either. The seminar hall was divided into 5 columns representing each class, and various familiar faces could be seen sitting in them. Can you stop tapping your feet? Rhea Adler said with an annoyed look on her face. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to annoy you. Alan smiled, but he was pretty nervous. He hadn't performed too well in the dungeon exploration test, and the biggest reason for his poor performance was Asher himself. His fear of Asher had increased quite a bit for a young person like him, getting brutally beaten and then experiencing such chilling killing intent. If he were not trying to impress Rhea, Elena's cousin, he would even avoid being in the same space as Asher. But despite being this nervous about Asher, he didn't want to lose his chance to spend time with Rhea, his crush. Unfortunately, Rhea didn't hold the same sentiments regarding Alan. Previously, she had thought that Alan was a fairly powerful talent, but his performance was not impressive. She was in the same class as Gavin Neville and Alan Astaria, but for her, both of them were not impressive at all. Elena, Eva, and Kevin entered together, making many students chatter among themselves. They were people who were guaranteed to be in the top 10, and for them, the only thing that mattered was their placement in the rankings. Ads by Pub Future. Elena was entering when she saw Licia Halcyon also walking past her to go to the class 2 column. Licia was in the same class as Amelia and Damien, so she tried to go to her seat, but Elena interrupted her. Hello, Licia, she greeted her, but Eva and Kevin had already reached their seats, so she was the only one that greeted her. Hi, Elena, Licia greeted her back. Though they were not close friends, those from elite families knew about the family members of each elite family and a few other influential people as well. What rank do you think you will get? Elena asked with a smile on her face. It was rare for her to meet Licia, who was said to be her rival or a better mage than herself. Although she had another plan for why she approached Licia, she was only trying to be friendly with her right now. Let's see. I am not sure, Licia calmly replied. She was the princess of Halcyon, and faking smiles was something all influential people knew. It was something everyone used to appear as friendly as possible, contemporary romance. Oh, I will not take your time. Let's meet again sometime, Elena said as the crowd of students grew bigger behind her. Both of them came from an elite family, so many students hesitated to interfere with their conversation. Noticing this, Elena quickly wrapped up her talks with Licia, who also nodded back at her. Licia sat down as she noticed Amelia and Damien already sitting together, but she ignored them both. She had taken her father's advice seriously, who told her to stay away from the Greville family as much as possible. The seminar hall kept filling out as Damien also noticed Asher and Alyssa coming in. Their entrance made the seminar hall burst with chatter all over the place. Some girls, secretly interested in Asher, were cursing Alyssa for being a burden and getting him injured. None of them could imagine that the girl in the wheelchair they were mocking had enough power to kill every single first-year student in a one-on-one duel. Except for Asher, even Kevin could not defeat Alyssa now that she was cured. Even Amelia was one of the people who saw Alyssa in a similar light. She didn't know why Asher would bother to harm his first rank to help a girl like her. Although she would have talked with Asher, knowing his personality, she decided not to. But unlike Amelia, Damien did not view Alyssa in a similar light. Instead, he sensed something weird about the way Asher handled situations around her. In 5 minutes, everyone had sat in their seats, and now the entrance to the seminar hall was closed, so latecomers couldn't enter even if they wanted to. Vanessa was one of those people who was not sitting in the front seats of Class 1 despite being powerful enough to sit in those seats. Despite her outgoing personality, she disliked doing stuff that gathered attention towards her. A man with broad shoulders, tall stature, slightly gray hair, and black eyes walked on the stage, gathering the attention of everyone present in the seminar hall. Hello, I am Xander Demarcus, the Vice Principal of the World Academy. Xander introduced himself. The way he carried himself with pride and dominance, and his image of being strict, was evident from looking at him. A big screen behind him showed his face to the people in the last rows. I am here to announce and reward the top 10 rankers among the first years of the World Academy, he said as the sound of clapping was heard. Multiple professors were present here, and they were also looking forward to seeing the rankings as well. Apart from the top 10 people, the names of the top 50 students will be displayed on the screen behind me, Xander said as 10 blocks appeared behind him, numbered 1 to 10. But before I announce, let me show you the prize that the first ranker would get. Xander raised his hand as a crown appeared in his hands. This is one of the SSS rank artifacts that we give to the rank 1 of each year to use, Xander said as Asher looked at the crown like many others did. His eyes focused on the crown, and the system notification popped up. Analyzing artifact. Fallen's crown. Rank SSS increases the comprehension rate of its wearer by 50%. Passive effect, intelligence plus 100. Limitations, only works on beings below a rank. Limitations, only works for 2 minutes the first time you wear it and becomes useless after that. Limitations, needs recharge period of 1 month. This artifact is one of the rarest artifacts that increases your comprehension rate and gives you a considerable boost in the path you choose for yourself, Xander said seriously. Many students started to think about having such an artifact, but they would never be able to use it. As it has a recharging period of 1 month, we cannot use it for all the students. So only rankers can use this artifact, but the one who uses it first will have a clear advantage over the others. Xander's words made Kevin a bit happy and nervous at the same time. I have a good chance to get this, he thought in his mind. I will start to call the names of the top 10 students, so come on the stage one by one. Xander looked at the front rows of all columns, making the whole seminar hall look forward to it. In the 10th place, we have Vanessa Baker, Xander said as she stood up from the middle rows to go up the stage. Her name shocked many students, and among them were the ones sitting in the front rows. She walked up to the stage and stood on the spot Xander pointed at. The whole time, she avoided looking at Xander's eyes but looked at Alyssa, who was also looking at her. In the 9th place, we have Damien Seymour, Xander said as Damien stood up, and Amelia clapped for him among many students as he walked up and stood beside Vanessa. Although Damien wanted a higher rank, he was still content with being a ranker. In the 8th place, we have Eva Williams, Xander said as Eva stood up to walk up to the stage as Kevin and Elena cheered for her, along with others. Many boys cheered for her as well because she was among the most beautiful girls in the first years. In 7th place, we have Amelia von Greville. Xander looked at Amelia as she proudly walked onto the stage with a confident yet sharp look on her face. Damien smiled as she took the 7th spot beside Eva, who got a bit angry at herself for losing to Amelia. The rankings were moving up as many people awaited the next 6 spots, but the most confused person was none other than Sam Allister, who didn't know what was happening. How did I not get 7th or 8th place? Sam asked himself. If others knew what Sam was thinking, they would have thought he was making a joke because Sam Allister was a person that was predicted to secure 5th place or higher. Xander watched as Amelia stood in her place, and he looked forward as he spoke the next name. In 6th place, we have Elena Rothschild. Xander looked at class 4 column. Did Sam Allister get outranked? Elena stood up gracefully as she walked up to the stage. Many students and most of the boys from class 4 were clapping for her. Who the hell is in the top 5 then? Sam pondered further. Elena walked past Amelia with a smirk on her face as she stood at the 6th place. But unfortunately for her, Amelia didn't care about it that much. She knew that her true abilities lay in a supporting role rather than as a battle mage like Elena. Now, before I announce the top 5, I need to tell you that the top 5 are different from the rest, Xander said. His words made students confused because they didn't know about this. This is the new structure we are implementing this year, Xander said as Asher looked at him. It started a bit early, Asher thought in his mind. In his previous life, this distinction happened in the 2nd year of the World Academy. The top 5 will be able to access the trial grounds at the end of their first year if they want to. Xander's words made many people chatter among themselves. And we have introduced something called the immunity of ranks, he said. There will be a council for each year, and before duels, the council of rankers will need to approve of the duel, and unless they do, rankers will not be able to duel with other rankers, Xander said with a stern look on his face. He saw many students were confused, and even the ones standing on the stage were slightly confused. That's right, if the voting among the 10 who will stand here happens to make any changes, but at the end of the year examination, you can outrank others easily, Xander said, as many ideas were popping into the heads of certain people. And one of them was Elena Rothschild. I can take over the majority, she thought. According to her estimate, the only people she could not ally with were Asher, Amelia, and Damien. However, others could easily be persuaded to form an alliance against the Grevilles. There are more changes, but all of them will be told to you guys next week when your classes will resume, Xander said as he resumed the list. The person taking the 5th place is Licia Halcyon, Xander announced as Licia stood up. Ads by Pub Future. A confused look could be seen on the people standing on the stage. And it was visible as most people standing on the stage looked in Sam's direction. How is this even possible? Sam spoke to himself. Among all of the students, he was the most shocked. Licia was one of the most beautiful girls in the first year, and her golden eyes, the distinct feature of Halcyon's royal family, were quite alluring to most people. Even Kevin admitted that Licia was as beautiful as Elena, Eva, and Emilia, but he never had the chance to meet her personally. And it was the same for other people as well. Licia was a person who never tried to mingle with others. Even the people from her continent, like Sam Allister and the senior student from Everett, still hadn't met with her. For the fourth place, we have Matthew. Xander was a bit surprised to see a kid who was an orphan to be so talented and for him to compete with others of such resourceful backgrounds. "You outranked me," Matthew said to Sam as he stood up, but Sam just shook his head. But Matthew could not talk with him anymore as he made his way to the stage. Many students were clapping, but almost all of them were those with ordinary backgrounds. Was Sam Allister this good? Elena thought to herself as she saw Matthew standing beside Licia. She knew about Matthew, as he was a fairly powerful rookie that the World Association had chosen to participate in the World Academy, so he was expected to become a ranker. "And now the top 3 of first-year students," Xander said as he looked at the broad seminar hall. "In the third place, with their outstanding performance, we have Alyssa Astaria," Xander said. The crowd was about to burst with cheers and claps, but a sudden silence took place. Then, finally, Alyssa hovered up from her wheelchair, and she floated a bit above the ground to reach the stage. As she walked past, many shocked, surprised, and angered faces could be seen. Contemporary romance. What? How is she top 3? Did they make a mistake? The voices in the seminar hall started to erupt, but they fell silent suddenly. Silence. Xander's pressure took over, and even Elena, who was about to speak, was shut down before she had the chance. Everyone missed it, but a dangerous glint could be seen in the dull eyes of the girl who walked past 7 students to float above the third spot. "I will not tolerate any sort of disobedience in this ceremony." Xander's stern look made the voices die down, but confused looks were still present on their faces. Didn't they get injured in the D-rank dungeon? Eva thought in her mind. It was weird, and remembering her physical test score, it would have been impossible for her to even stay in the top 10, but she was now standing at the top 3 spot. The most shocked ones were the professors that planned the downfall of Alyssa and her removal from the student council. But Xander's word made them unable to openly dispute Xander's decision. The person who is taking the second place with their exceptional performances. Thump thump. Xander was saying as Kevin's heart was beating very fast. He didn't care if Alyssa took the top 3. For him, he wanted to hear Ash's name, but unfortunately for him, it was not meant to be. "Kevin Whiteheart," Xander announced as people started clapping, but most of them were sitting still. Doesn't this mean that rank 1 is? A thought came to their minds. The one person they were mocking because he got injured after his daring speech and daring acts, but now that person was rank 1. Most of the students were openly praising Kevin and supporting him so they could impact the influence Asher was gaining, but it fell into shambles. The handsome young man with his white hair stood up as he walked past Elena, who had a sad look on her face. She could see that Kevin was not happy. He was her childhood friend, and Elena couldn't bear to watch Kevin so sad in front of her. Eva's thoughts were similar but not as extreme as Elena's. She also wanted to cheer him up, but now was not the time. The rank 1, who will gain the most authority among the first-year students and the status that is just below the student council president, is none other than Asher von Raven-Greville, Xander said as a few students clapped. Still, knowing the young man's status, the claps grew louder. Although few people admired Asher, most hated his guts, but out of fear, nobody could oppose him. And nobody even wanted to oppose him either. Why make problems with the heir of one of the most powerful families in the world because of their petty reasons? But the loudest claps were coming from Class 1, They were students that, although they hated being in the same class as Asher, it was something they bragged about a lot. Class 1 somehow became the most feared class due to just one person. The grins on the students of Class 1 grew wider as the young man stood up and walked up to the stage. His indifferent face and crimson-red eyes were the sources of the nightmares of students who fought him in the dual class, and the most scared person right now was Alan, who was sweating all over his body. Asher walked past as Damien cheered him up, but others just kept watching silently. Asher walked past Kevin, who was clenching his jaw, and took first place. And as the rank 1, you can have this crown for now. Xander took the crown, and Asher took it in his hands and stored it in his spatial ring. Excuse me, Vice Principal Xander, a professor finally stood up when he could not stand it anymore. Yes, Professor Argus. Xander looked down at the professor sitting in the center rows with other professors, but 3 stars could be seen on his clothes, revealing his authority. It's fair for Asher Greville to take the first spot, but I don't think that girl deserves the top 3, Argus openly pointed at Alyssa. Alyssa's face was covered with a metallic mask, so only her dull eyes were visible right now. Yeah, we also agree with Professor Argus. Some other professors also stood in unison, seeing that Argus was leading the march for them. Right now, most of them were so annoyed and frustrated that they forgot the man Xander Damarcus indeed was. These idiots. Elsa facepalmed as she saw some mere 1-star and a few 2-star professors raising their hands toward Xander. Asher was calm, as he knew about Xander Damarcus almost better than anyone. The only man Asher thought of as a teacher figure after Arthur and the one who inspired him to create the mana doping methods. Xander Damarcus, or the title that most people had forgotten due to how long it has been since Xander retired. They have done it. They have provoked the Damarcus's blood blade. An old-looking man with a long beard laughed as he watched the ceremony, albeit in a hidden way. Yeah, we also agree with Professor Argus. Some other professors also stood in unison, seeing that Argus was leading the march for them. This is a clear misuse of authority. Another professor chimed in, but he got interrupted as he saw blood splatter before his eyes. A few seconds ago, Xander saw many professors rising against him, and due to his personality, he despised people who slandered him. Snake steps, Xander said as he disappeared from his spot. Asher looked at Xander as he saw him perform an altered version of snake steps that Asher used a lot in his previous life. In a second, a shining white blade appeared out of Xander's hand, but nobody could notice the speed he was moving except a few. Apart from Professor Argus, the one with 3-star authority, all the other professors had their hands cut by a clean stroke. Xander was already back on stage as his long overcoat fluttered due to the disturbance in the air around him. A beautiful white blade stained with blood disappeared from Xander's hand as he looked in front of him. Ah! A cry of multiple professors was heard in unison as the first-year students also noticed the act. My hand, no, a professor screamed. What? Argus looked around him, and everyone except him, who had raised their hand against Xander, had their left hand cut as blood kept flowing around. Snap! Xander snapped his fingers as multiple guards appeared around him. Take them out, Xander said, looking at them as guards took the professors out of the seminar hall. Contemporary romance. The guards Xander had just called were special hunters that were under him, and they were responsible for safety around the floating island and maintaining peace if any conflicts happened. Xander saw many first-year students averting their eyes from the scene, but his voice could be heard clearly in the whole seminar hall. If this much is enough to make you lose your will, then perhaps give up on being a hunter, Xander said. Your past 2 months might have been fun and eventful. Xander looked over the crowd of students before him. But World Academy is not a place where you have fun. This is a harsh place where we train you to become the best hunter with the best facilities, Xander said. And before I answer Professor Argus's complaint, does anyone have the same question as him? Xander looked around, but nobody raised their hands. Xander's eyes drifted down at Argus, who trembled a bit again, but he knew that Xander would not harm him unless he provoked him further. For your question, the answer is pretty simple, Xander said, making the whole crowd curious about it, including the one on stage. Unlike everyone else, Asher Greville and Alyssa Astaria had taken on a C-rank dungeon. Xander's words made everyone open their mouths in shock. What? Even Elena could not help but speak out. Ads by Pub Future. They have given me and our principal the proof of their kills, so I would ask you again, Professor Argus. Xander looked down as his eyes stared at Argus standing with blood all around him. What place will you place a student who has defeated a D rank monster while being A+ rank? So, does anyone else have a problem with my decisions? Xander looked at other professors that did not speak against him but had similar thoughts. Most of them would have spoken if the other party was not as powerful as Xander, but right now, they could not do anything. What the hell? AC rank dungeon. Whispers started emerging throughout the seminar hall, but none of them could even imagine that Asher and Alyssa had also fought a Vielmeer, AC rank monster. I have no issues, Argus said as he sat on his seat without saying anything else. He ignored the blood around him as he worried more about Xander's reaction. Anybody else? Xander looked at the stage, but no one spoke up. Even Elena didn't speak out. Unlike the professors, they wouldn't receive such a harsh reception from Xander, but she didn't have the confidence to challenge someone who cleared a C-rank dungeon so openly. So this is why he was injured. Makes sense. Many students talked among themselves. Amelia was also surprised, but Damien just smiled, as he knew that Asher would not get injured in a D rank dungeon. Suddenly, everything had grown so chaotic that everyone had forgotten about one person. Wait, then he isn't even in the top 10. How? Matthew was the one to speak out, but he immediately stopped as everyone's attention turned toward him. Even Vanessa was surprised that Sam Allister was ranked lower than her. She knew she was strong, but Sam was stronger than her, so it was hard for her to think that he ranked lower than others. Now that the rankers are announced, Xander interrupted everyone's thoughts about Sam as he announced. Our auction will happen soon, and various items and artifacts will be present there. If you have enough GP, you can buy some artifacts for yourself, Xander said. The artifacts brought from the dungeon are the only ones students are allowed to use, so make sure those who want artifacts or other things have enough GP to buy them at the auction, he continued. And now the clubs and other activities will finally be opening, and the senior year students will interact with you guys more and more from now on, Xander explained. From now on, the World Academy will officially begin, and one of the SSS rank artifacts, and one of the most famous ones as well, will soon be activated, his words. Excited the first years. They had heard about this one artifact that was under Farnas Calmott's possession, and it had a very simple but effective function. The moment the artifact was activated for the next 10 months, it would increase the mana quality of the whole floating island on which the World Academy was built. And behind me are the names of all the top 50, Xander said as names started to appear on the screen. Another list will be displayed that shows the top 3 scorers of each test, Xander said as he turned. And congratulations, you all are now rankers, and I hope you all will not slack off and improve your abilities using all the resources you get, Xander said as the crowd clapped for the rankers. Matthew was still looking at Sam Allister, who was in the 11th position. Below him was Rhea Adler and some other person. Gavin Neville, who was in the 14th position. And Alan Astaria, who was in the 21st position. Sam noticed Matthew looking at him, but he turned his head, whistling and pretending not to notice him. A month ago, before the theory tests began. What do you mean? Sam asked the young man standing in front of him. Don't you want to kill your father? The young man asked. Sam nervously gulped as the cold gaze of the crimson-red eyes looked at him. Why would I destroy my family, Asher Greville? Sam pretended that he didn't care about Asher's offer. And you are good, but destroying elite families isn't that easy, you know, right? Sam scoffed at Asher's offer, but his next word made Sam even more cautious of the man before him. So you don't want to save your mother? Asher asked, making Sam frown. My mother is fine, why would she even need my help? He replied, but Asher brought a picture of a lady with various devices wrapped around her hands and appeared quite sick. It's a fair trade, Sam Alistair. Just work for me, and you will get your real mother out of your father's clutches, Asher said as he indifferently looked at Sam. How did you get this information? Sam asked Asher with a nervous look on his face. Just perform a bit worse on your theory tests and the dungeon exploration to get somewhere around 7th or 8th position. Not too tough, right? Asher said. And in return, I will give you a position in my faction. And not the childish ones in the World Academy. You will be part of my own group of people. Asher tossed a badge with a special design engraved on it. Sam understood what Asher was trying to say, but he was not ready to take such a risk. Will you help me get my mother, despite making enemies with all three Halcyon elite families? Sam asked with a serious look on his face. Asher tapped his fingers on the table and stared at Sam. Just do what I tell you, don't ask so many questions, Asher said, while his killing intent leaked a bit, making Sam tremble a bit. Okay. Sam stood up and went back to the VIP dorms. Should I really believe him so easily? Sam asked, but it was not a bad deal. He was aiming to get a lower rank as well, so it was perfect. But Sam didn't even know what kind of faction Asher had made him join until 5 months later. Asher looked at Sam, who left his room and the ranker's dorm. Asher smirked as he looked at Sam, who had believed him so quickly. Why would I ever let you kill your father? Asher muttered. I wonder how many stats I would be able to get from an SS rank hunter in the future, Asher muttered as he thought of his plans. Now, how should I handle those professors? Asher spoke out as his eyes went cold. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Xander walked off the stage and looked at the staff member, who was panicking a bit. Call the faculty council meeting immediately, Xander said as he took out his phone and looked at a certain piece of information he had gotten a month ago. Time to deal with some pests, he muttered to himself. In another part of the seminar hall, a long-bearded man laughed as he knew Xander would have only injured the professors, not cut their arms, but if he did so, he had a proper reason behind it. Ping! The old man got a notification about the faculty meeting that required every single professor under 3 stars to be present and all the free 3-star professors as well. Ho! Sounds like a fun meeting. Professor Neiman laughed as he disappeared from the seminar hall. What do you think this meeting is for? A professor asked, but most of them had already learned about the recent incident in the seminar hall. Let's wait for the vice principal to come himself, another professor replied. The atmosphere was a bit tense, as this was the first time such a thing had happened. Ho! All of you arrived quite early. Professor Neiman entered and sat on one of the seats. But before the discussions could begin, Xander entered the room, stopping anyone from talking any further. You all might be confused as to why I have called this meeting. Xander sat on his seat and looked around him. A month ago, I received rather peculiar information from an unknown source, Xander continued, looking around at all the professors. But he was interrupted by one person, the only person who had the power to interrupt him like this. Is that related to your recent offense, Sir Xander Damarcus? The man didn't call him by his title of vice principal, which Xander had earned with his own contribution. The man who could talk like this was the head of security of the World Academy and an SS rank hunter who was quite popular in the upper echelon of society. Well, if you look at their crimes until now, you might change your mind, Sir Zemel, Xander replied, looking straight into Zemel's eyes. Their auras were leaking, making some of the professors quite uncomfortable. Well, we should let Vice Principal Zander present his case before arriving at any conclusions, Professor Neiman said, and both Zemel and Zander stopped because he was older than them. Neiman was a respected person, not just in the World Academy but among the elite families as well. He had good relations with the Artisans Association's chairman and was the best at teaching runic arts. Zander touched a button on his unique bracelet, and a hologram popped up with various faces on it. What? Zemel was the one who spoke out. This is. Other professors also got surprise. Those bastards. Zemel slammed his hand on the table. What Zander had presented just now was proof of some of the professors accepting bribes and trying to tamper with the results of students from quite a few families. They had even gone as far as to supply GP to them for money. Each professor was given some GP to award their students to increase competitiveness and the desire to improve, but selling them was against the laws of the World Academy. Do you know the source, Vice Principal Zander? Neiman asked with a curious look on his face. I don't, and that's why I took my time to look into this matter personally and ensure that all this data was true, Zander replied. The meeting continued, and apart from Professor Argus, many one-star professors were removed from the World Academy. Although it didn't matter until they didn't know, someone unknown having this information created a situation where the reputation of the World Academy was at stake. It was not like most three-star professors didn't know about some of this, but they chose to ignore it. And if Zander himself had found out about this, he probably would not have removed those professors immediately, but some lighter actions would have been taken. This was the way society worked in this world, where injustice was ignored until the awareness about it grew so much that it could not be ignored any further. Argus's name was not present in Zander's report, so he was safe, but the sudden purge created chaos in the World Academy. Ads by Pub Future. Asterisk 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 asterisk. In front of the Rankers Dome. I welcome all of the Rankers to the Rankers Dome. The staff member welcomed the 10 students in front of him. Asher and Alyssa were not present, as they had already gone in and were getting the key to the new floor they would stay in. This is your key. The staff member gave a golden-colored card to Asher, and his ID bracelet lit up as Asher's name got all the access that came with rank 1. And this is yours, he turned and spoke. Alyssa took a similar card and got access to her new floor just like Asher got his. There will be a meeting for the rankers, and you will be informed about the privileges you get in the schedule when it's done, the staff member said, stepping aside to allow Asher and Alyssa to go their ways. Asher stopped before the lift as his body and ID bracelet was scanned. Less than identity confirmed. Asher warned Raven Greville greater than less than you may enter the top floor, rank 1 access granted greater than. The 10th floor of the Rankers Dome was the most privileged, with all the facilities. The lift opened up as Asher stepped in, and it went up to the 10th floor. Outside the Rankers Dome, as you can now see, the floors can change their blocks from male ones to female freely, the staff member pointed out. The 7th floor and the 10th floor started moving. Kevin kept looking at the highest floor, which could have been his, but all he could do was watch with a bitter taste in his mouth. Elena, Eva, Licia, and Amelia had similar thoughts as they saw the 7th floor move. For them, a girl like Alyssa, who was seen as a cripple, had surpassed them despite having numerous resources to their names. But there was another guy who was beyond frustrated by all this. FCK this, Alan slammed things in his room. How is that BTCH better than me? He shouted, his face turning red. Being the heir of the Astaria family, he knew very well how many resources he was given and that Alyssa was never given anything. He had always seen her as a stain on his family. She can't be better than me. He kept muttering the same thing. Alan's mental health was not good at all, whenever he slept, he would get nightmares about Asher, and it started affecting his life as a whole. But a smile erupted on his face as he remembered that the clubs and factions would open for the first years, and the duel for rankings would open as well. He could climb up and slowly make his way to the top. Yeah, she just got lucky. Alan told himself. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Arman walked up to a strange-looking artifact, which was present in front of two massive gates with several runes on them. The complexity of the runes on those two gates was so high that even several runemasters could not correctly decipher their functions. Let's start this. Arman stepped forward, taking a key-like structure and putting it in the hole before him, contemporary romance. Click. As he turned the key, the artifact started glowing, and claw-like structures came out of the artifact, going down toward the ground. Let's leave now, Arman muttered as he left the place. The artifact started changing its shape as it transformed into a flower, but unlike natural ones, it looked like it was made out of silver. The strange flower had 7 petals, and after a minute, a single petal dropped to the ground and got dissolved immediately, sending a wave of mana all around the flower. On the 10th floor of the Ranker's Dome, Asher looked around the 10th floor, as it was his first time coming to this floor. Even in his previous life, he had never gotten first place, but looking around, he could see why this floor was so coveted among all the rankers. This room was perfect for him to absorb mana. The density was much higher than any other floor in the Ranker's Dome. He turned and looked at the training room, which had the best equipment for him to train without having to step out of the building. As he was talking, a wave of mana pulsed throughout the whole floating island, and Asher looked in a particular direction. In a week, he thought. That was the time it would take for the artifact to fully activate. 7 pulses. It was the first pulse that began the count for the special week every senior year student was waiting for. After this week, seniors would be allowed to meet with first years, and moreover, all the clubs and factions would finally start recruiting talents and members for themselves. Time to go out, Asher said as he texted Alyssa. After the rankings were out, they were allowed to leave for up to 5 days, so Asher was going to use this time to get some work done outside the World Academy. After an hour or two, Asher was looking into some stuff on his computer, but he stopped as he heard a noise. Ping! It was a notification on his ID bracelet from Professor Elsa Robles. Less than all the rankers, please meet me at the lobby of Ranker's Dome in 1 hour greater than. It was a simple message, and Asher knew what it was all about. Ignoring it, Asher looked at the list he had sent to Xander through Tom about some professors. Now, what will you do, Leon? Asher smirked as a certain person, who was still unaware of this purge, was in a meeting. Asterisk 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 asterisk. I want at least all the elite family students in the blood faction. Is that clear? Leonard said as he sat around the table with other third-year students. But there will be a problem with Kevin Whiteheart and his friends, and Elena Rothschild and Eva Williams would probably join Raylan as well, a guy spoke out, gathering everyone's attention. It doesn't matter, Gavin Neville is already confirmed as a member, Jack Allister spoke out, making Leonard smile at him. What about your brother? A guy asked him. Don't worry about that bastard, he will move as I order him to, Jack smiled and replied confidently. What about Licia Halcyon? Can you convince her? Leonard asked Jack. Convincing her is a bit difficult, but I will try, Jack replied. Although the meeting was going on, there was something else going on in Leonard's mind. How should I deal with that guy? He thought to himself as he remembered the face of Asher. All of the top 10 students made their way to the common lobby area, which was quite big. Hey, I didn't expect you to get such a high rank, Vanessa said to Alyssa, who was sitting in her wheelchair. Thanks, Alyssa replied with a dull look in her eyes, but Vanessa just nodded her head. Certain groups had already formed, with Damien and Amelia sitting near Asher, Kevin, Elena, and Eva together, and Vanessa and Alyssa. Matthew and Licia weren't close to anyone here, so they were just sitting alone, but the tension was high. Neither Elena nor Eva were talking with each other, as they hated being in the same place as Asher. Asher didn't mind the constant stares he was getting from everyone present in the lobby. Right now, he was looking at some stuff on his phone. I wanna go back to my room, Matthew muttered. He wasn't used to sitting with such high-profile people, so he looked at Vanessa to see how she was dealing with the situation. To his surprise, she seemed quite comfortable. Matthew questioned whether he was too awkward or if she was just an airhead who didn't know how to behave around such people. But, of course, he had no way of knowing that Vanessa had a similar status as the other elite family children. Seeing no one was talking, Elena took the chance to speak with Licia. Do you wanna hang out with us? Elena asked Licia, making some people look at her. Where? Although she would usually avoid it, Licia decided to hear her out. Apparently, the outer facilities will open for the first-year students after a week, so you can hang out with us, Elena said with a smile. Yeah, you should come with us if you're free, Kevin said with Elena. He looked at Licia with a smile and waited for her answer. I rarely go out, so I might not come, but I will inform you if my mind changes, Licia smiled. You can come with us as well, Elena looked at Matthew, who was counting the lines on the floor. Ah, what? Matthew replied as he missed Elena's question. Do you want to hang out with us? Elena asked again, barely maintaining her smile. No, I'm fine, Matthew politely replied, not wanting to mingle with them too much. Sam was fine because he didn't behave like other elite family children, and he could connect with him as a friend. But Elena and the others were different. PFT, Damien laughed while keeping his eyes on his phone. What's so funny? Kevin was annoyed with Damien as he remembered their previous dispute. Ads by Pub Future. Your face. Damien said while staring at Kevin's face with a focused look. Although Kevin was trying to hold it in, he was almost at his breaking point. Elena noticed Kevin's expression, and she didn't like Damien either. You speak too much for a guy barely making it to the top, Elena started to say, but Asher raised his eyes and looked at her, making her close her mouth. His cold gaze was enough to silence her. Seeing that it was quiet again, Asher returned to his phone and continued looking at some stuff. The whole time, Alyssa looked at Elena, Eva, and Kevin's group with a strange expression. Nobody except Asher knew what kind of thoughts were going through her mind. Kevin didn't like how Asher threatened Elena, so he was about to speak, but Professor Elsa arrived, stopping him from doing so. It seems everyone is present here, Elsa said with a smile. So, I am here to tell you guys about some of the privileges you get for being a ranker, Elsa said as she took a seat, gathering the attention of everyone here. As Vice Principal Xander has already told you about it, the top 5 are allowed to challenge the trial grounds after completing their first year, she said as she brought a few special badges. We will award you these badges to the top 5 when the year-end examination happens. Some changes in rankings might occur, she explained. You all know about the extra GP you get for being a ranker and the fact you can use the crown as well, but that's not all the things you can do, Elsa told them. Well, you know that the auction will happen soon, Elsa asked, contemporary romance. Some of them nodded, answering her question. Well, I will advise you all to get some good artifacts for yourself, she said. It was true that artifacts helped to fluctuate the rankings a lot, but those artifacts could only be bought with GP and not with real currency, so it was difficult to bid on them like an actual auction. And there was only one item in that auction that Asher wanted. Well, There are some new things like immunity, but I am sure you guys have understood it, right? Elsa asked, and seeing that no questions were asked, she moved on to the next topic. It's not official yet, but there will be a change in the structure of classes as we want more practical experience in the outside world, her words were enough to grab their attention. And there will be many times we might take students to the three associations or some other places of value, Elsa said, surprising many of them. You, as rankers, hold the highest authority over other first years, Elsa said, but not many knew what the authority was. Although it's not something I like, but unless fatal or something that could lead to an injury, rankers are allowed to use mana, her words surprise people like Matthew and Alyssa. And yeah, this means your seniors can also use mana on you to pressure your guys if it doesn't lead to injury, her words made Vanessa frown, but for others, it was not much of a problem. Well, and then there is the fact you guys can use the top-notch facilities without spending any GP, but for limited hours per week, Elsa looked around. There were some authorities that Elsa explained carefully as it required her to explain how the student council worked and other things like different stars that the professors were allotted. She kept explaining other stuff related to them joining clubs and factions and other things they get as a ranker. But it was not something too grand for Asher, as he had already gotten the thing he wanted, and that was the crown. And that's all. Your classes will resume in a week, as you might have noticed a wave pulse of mana. It is one of the SSS rank artifacts, and when it's fully activated, you will be able to enjoy the World Academy fully, Elsa wrapped up their discussion as she stood up to walk out. Do you want a spa? Damien asked, but Matthew also heard it. Although he wanted to avoid Asher, sparring was the one thing he wanted to do with Asher. Matthew used swords, so he wanted to learn from Asher, who was the grandson of the sword god, Nathaniel Greville. But, unfortunately for him, the sword art Asher was learning was not something anybody in this world could learn or was capable of learning. So even if Asher wanted to teach someone else, it would be pointless, as they would never understand its principle. Not now, next week. I will leave tomorrow to go to Soren, Asher replied. If you meet Lucas and Livia, say hi to them from me, Amelia quickly spoke as Asher looked at her. If Nate is there, tell him I said hi as well, Damien said. It's unlikely I will go home, but if I do, I will tell them, Asher said as he turned. Asher went back to his floor, and as he stepped in, he could also feel the difference in mana in the living room. He took out the SSS rank artifact and looked at the crown in his hand. Asher could feel that he was close to breaking through to the novice mastery of the SSS rank node sword art. However, he was still at the fundamental mastery, and every time he tried to remember the scriptures in his head, only a blurred image would form in his mind. Asterisk 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 asterisk. An hour ago, Xander was talking with Neiman, Zemal, and a few other professors in a room. Vice Principal Xander, I still think giving such a high rank to that girl is not a good decision. Argus once again spoke, but he was more polite and careful this time. They fought AC rank monsters in a dungeon, and you say my choice is incorrect. Xander looked at Argus as he spoke. What? Most of the people sitting here were shocked. Although it was evident that it was Asher Greville who killed them, I could notice that she did great supporting him just from the wounds on the monsters, Xander said, but all of them were still shocked. How? Zemal said, but Xander just shook his head. Logic doesn't work in people like they. Take Eva Greville, for example, Xander said, making them remember a certain person who was not as good as Asher but was the closest comparison to him. I heard Eva's kids were found by the Greville family, Zemal said, and Xander nodded. Well, Arthur, Zemal was about to say something, but he realized his mistake. Don't worry, I don't mind it, Xander said, but the atmosphere around the room had become awkward. Only a few knew about the feud between Arthur and Xander and how much Arthur hated him. Zemel only talked about Arthur in front of Xander because they were talking about Eva, who was the only person who acted as the bridge between the two of them. So, any other questions? Xander said as Argus raised his hand. Well, but it was still Asher Greville who killed those monsters. We can, Argus was speaking, but Xander stopped him. Your point is that her abilities are not beneficial in the long run, right? Xander said, and Argus nodded. Then you can tell your students to change the rankings in the year-end examination, and I have already taken confirmation from the principal about this, Xander said as he wrapped up the discussion. Fallen's Crown. Rank SSS increases the comprehension rate of its wearer by 50%. Passive effect, intelligence plus 100. Limitations, only works on beings below a rank. Limitations, only works for 2 minutes the first time you wear it and becomes useless after that. Limitations, needs recharge period of 1 month, contemporary romance. Asher looked at the artifact's stats, and the system could decipher the runes on it perfectly. The golden-colored crown had 7 colored jewels all around it. 2 minutes, Asher noted the limitations of this artifact. It was the only artifact in the world that affected someone's mental capabilities, but unfortunately, even the SSS rank artifact couldn't boost the intelligence of a being permanently. This was the only reason Asher was unwilling to use his attribute points on any other stats. Monsters in this world clearly did not have higher intelligence than human beings, and most importantly, Asher was sure that very few humans had a higher intelligence stat than him. There was a chance that his intelligence had surpassed the human limit, but he was not sure about it. Intelligence was a very complex stat, as it increased the burden your mind could handle at once. Increasing intelligence didn't mean he would learn something without knowing it. But, like the artifact worked, people with higher intelligence had a relatively easier time comprehending complex stuff. It was obvious that if this artifact did not have the time limitation, it would have been the most coveted thing a spatial mage required. Taking the crown, Asher entered the training room, which was a bit special. The walls were reinforced so they wouldn't get damaged even if an A-rank hunter attacked them. Although the full strength of an A-rank hunter would still damage them, it was enough for the first years to practice without worrying about damaging their surroundings. Before wearing the crown, Asher checked his status screen. Fate Devourer System. Name, Asher von Raven Greville. Level, 21, EXP 2500, 21,000. Bloodline, Devil's Absorption Rank SSS. Cursed, Curse of Fate, active. Body Constitution, Mana Core Rank D. Attributes. Strength, 90. Agility, 72. Endurance, 80. Intelligence, 120. Mana, 114. Stamina, 65. Adds by Pub Future. Charm, 65. Fate, 10,230. AP, 80. SP, 16. Skills, Time Dilation, Rank S, LVL1. Absorption, Rank S, LVL1. Mana Flow, Rank A. Mana Circulation, Rank A. Rune of Airden, Rank D. Node Art, Rank SSS, Aura Force Passive Skill. Beast, Locked. Looking at skill points and attribute points, Asher tried to perform his movement during the boss fight without using the crown. Swift Strike. Asher imagined a Vielmeer as he tried to move his swords around. Slash 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 slash. Asher's sword kept changing directions with each slash. As a result, his movement became unpredictable, but he was in full control, and no wasted movements were made. Not enough. Asher knew this much was not enough to break through the fundamental mastery. Feeling that he needed to step up, he decided to twist his right foot as he focused mana on his feet. Node Art. First step, Asher disappeared from his spot, but as he appeared 2 meters to his left, he lost his balance. The sudden burst of mana and following a line that he could only imagine being present on the ground he was standing on resulted in an error in his execution. First step, Asher kept using the same step. The principle behind the first step was complex, but Asher already had the general gist of the movement. His feet would get covered with mana, and a single burst and focusing that burst to gain momentum and move unpredictably made him a tough target. Although it might have sounded simple, his body could even perform this movement because his subconscious mind remembered the scriptures from which he learned the sword art. In addition, his eyes had become something special that could see such nods, making it possible for him to copy the scriptures easily. One more time, he decided to use more mana than usual. Bam! Asher crashed into the wall due to his lack of control. He had used mana to cover his head so he was not hurt. Although it was a failure, he stood up again as he knew the threshold of mana that he could not control for now. No doubt, first step, he said, but this time before moving in any direction, he decided to perform a slash with his movement. He disappeared from his position and appeared a few meters forward as his sword traveled a diagonal path. This is not perfect. Asher sensed that the power behind the strike had decreased significantly. It was not like when he fought the boss. Right now, his mind is completely focused on mastering the skill. It was similar to the time when Asher was experimenting with the mana doping methods that made him stronger. But this time, the sword art was not something he needed to make up on his own. Instead, it was somewhere in his mind, but he needed to master it slowly. After numerous failures, Asher stopped as he had done the same thing for over 2 hours. His arms had bruises due to him crashing into the walls, but his breathing was calm. He learned from his numerous fights that breathing was the most important part. If he maintained his breathing technique while using an extreme amount of mana in his skills, he still would not be too tired to move around. Asher had long lost the sensation of feeling pain. His level of pain tolerance was insane. But this didn't mean his sense of touch was dull, and it was something that made him different from others. His brain had grown used to ignoring the pain and not impacting his judgment. He walked to a corner and sat on one of the seats in the training room. Host has gained strength +1. Although Asher was not doing any specific exercise, just swinging his sword around and enduring the pain, his strength naturally increased. Right now, his mana core, which was a D rank from D rank, was trying to nourish his whole body with mana and increase his strength slowly. After 5 minutes of rest, Asher stood up and sat down in a meditating pose. Then, he took the crown in his hands and put it on. The moment he put it on, the jewels lit up dimly as Asher tried to remember the scriptures. Host has used Fallen's crown. +100 intelligence stats, temporary. Asher looked around his subconscious as he appeared in a familiar yet strange-looking place. Around him was an environment barren of life, with a single bridge made of red stones. Below it was a space full of darkness. Then, above the bridge, a space covered in thick fog began to scatter, revealing giant scriptures as Asher's eyes fell upon them. He could see the 2 scriptures that portrayed various variations of his swift strike and the first step, which he had failed to complete multiple times. Looking at the incomplete scriptures, Asher noticed the fog around them was clearing up. Soon, 3 more scriptures were revealed, but all the scriptures were too big for Asher to read all at the same time. But right now, his comprehension rate was increased, so he could better understand the sword art. A strange pattern appeared in his eyes, and he could feel that the nods he was seeing were not simple guiding points. Asher's mind was consuming the information from the scriptures at a tremendous rate, but as he was using the crown, the light in the first jewel faded. For Asher, it felt like he was staring at the scriptures for minutes, but only 10 seconds had passed. First step, it's not a movement but a stroke you perform while aligning the nods. Asher kept muttering the things he was understanding. Mastery in node art is increasing. His perception of nodes changed from simple, transparent white dots to something more special. Nodes are parameters. Asher muttered again. His fundamental knowledge of the nodes was changing as his mind worked at a crazy speed to comprehend the meaning behind his words. The lines he could see on the floor made up of several nodes were the parameters that told him the amount of mana and many similar pieces of information that were needed to perform it perfectly. Then what is this? Asher turned as the bridge-like structure he was standing on moved. The fog was scattering as it revealed the huge fourth scripture. Strange movements and complex patterns filled Asher's brain as he tried to comprehend them, but he was too busy grasping the meaning behind them. It was much more complex than the swift strike and his movement technique. After the first step came the second, but it got suppressed by the third, Asher said as he kept looking towards it. Mastery in node art is increasing. He kept looking at the scripture, but the next technique was incomplete. However, Asher didn't stop at it. He knew that this was the answer he needed to complete node art, first step. In a stream of multiple thoughts that his brain was processing, he finally understood the complete fundamentals of the sword art. Novice mastery achieved. Comprehension rate, 0.01%. Notifications kept popping up, but he could not see them right now. It was at this moment that the light of two more jewels faded. A minute had passed in real time, and Asher was still figuring out the next step in the novice mastery. In the strange realm, Asher tried to look past the fog for a moment and see the next scriptures. He could feel the extreme pressure from that direction the moment he did. Drip. The effect could also be seen on his physical body as blood came out from his nose as the mental strain increased. It was a signal for him that whatever lay in the path of his sword art was not something ordinary. The end of the sword path was unknown, and the current him was not ready to comprehend what lay beyond. Asher moved his gaze towards the fourth scripture, realizing he needed to fully comprehend the fourth one before going further. First step, Mir, Asher muttered without really knowing why he did so. Novice mastery right pointing arrow 1.9%. His novice mastery was increasing at high speed, far greater than what he had achieved in the last 7 months. Right leg like this, Asher was adjusting his stance. The red stone bridge was big enough for Asher to move around freely. He advanced forward, but unlike the normal first step, this new one was far more complex, as it required a specific way of mana usage and the correct timing. Any slightest mistakes would make Asher lose his balance and most likely fall or crash into the walls like before. Asher started from the basics as he performed the swift strike, which was perfect. There were no mistakes, but he also did the basic first step. His body could be seen moving from one spot to another, and for low-rank hunters, it would seem as if Asher was teleporting. But in reality, it was short bursts of mana in a highly controlled manner that allowed him to gain such effects. Only those with heightened senses could notice his movements, but even then, they would have difficulty targeting him. This is lacking, he thought, knowing there was more room for improvement. What is it? Asher kept looking for it in the scriptures to find precisely what he was missing. Novice mastery right pointing arrow 2.67%. Novice mastery right pointing arrow 4.57%. At this moment, the fog around the fifth scripture also started fading, but instead of movement art, it was sword related. How does this even work? Asher could not fully understand what the scriptures were about. At one moment, the sword attacked, and the next moment, it was used as a defense. There was no flow present in whatever Asher was seeing right now. His crimson-red eyes were trying to slowly look at all that was present in the fifth scripture, which was still covered with fog. Only a specific part was revealed, but Asher's time was running out. At first, Asher had thought about using his time dilation skill to maximize the effect, but after actually using it, he knew that the skill was not something his body could handle right now. The effects were still present in his body, and he could feel the weakening effect until now. And he still remembered the feeling of his existence being crushed by the skill, which he did not want to use right now. Asher was correct but wrong at the same time. Even if he had used time dilation, it would not have helped him significantly. Although by instinct, Asher had avoided looking past the first scriptures, even if he comprehended them in a state where his intelligence was being supported by external factors, the moment the temporary effect was gone, he would have paid the price. The system would have told Asher if he had forced himself to learn it, but his instincts helped him this time. Gaining mastery in his sword art meant that even his basic movements would have become quite complex and mentally draining. The higher his mastery went, the higher the intelligence he would have needed to perform this. In comparison, his sword art was now similar to how the space element worked. Those who tried to use it would pay the price of slowly burdening their brain and dying early. Asher had experienced hours in his subconsciousness, and he had managed to finally learn Mir. Ads by Pub Future. Host has gained Mir. Mir was the first step, and after countless tries, Asher could finally understand the structure of this unique movement art. However, first step now seemed like only a part of another bigger movement art. Although he was still far from mastering Mir, he had finally taken the first step toward learning this special movement art. A mirage, then what are those? Asher looked at the first three scriptures again. But a strange thing happened as Asher turned to look at them. Novice Mastery Right Pointing Arrow 10%. Novice Mastery Right Pointing Arrow 12%. Novice Mastery Right Pointing Arrow 19%. Right now, he could feel that he had misinterpreted the meaning of those attacks. He felt that he had gained a new understanding of the attacks, but they were similar yet different from the one he glimpsed in the fifth scripture. In the outside world, 6 gems on the crown had already faded, and the last one was also fading. In 3 more seconds, the last one faded too. Asher turned as he saw the bridge crumbling and the fifth and fourth scriptures starting to get covered with fog. Is it time? Asher could feel that he could still comprehend more, but he felt that his current self was not ready to take it in. It was strange, but without help, Asher had only learned more than his current intelligence could handle. Although he still could not gain the particular skills or sword techniques in the fifth scripture, it was something he would acquire soon. Asher opened his eyes and looked at the series of notifications he had received from the system. Host has gained novice mastery in your sword art. Current mastery rate is at 21%. Movement art, first step will evolve to Mir steps. It is a sub-skill of the rank SSS node art, so it cannot be enhanced with skill points. Asher knew already, as everything about his sword art was something even the unknown system could not handle. Let's try it. Asher stood up, but his balance was slightly off. His mind was still adjusting to the sudden leap in intelligence he had experienced. Asher picked up his sword and tried the previous swift strike, but he attempted to perform it with his new movement art. Swift strike, he could already see the flaw in the swift strike due to him gaining another sword attack. Asher's right foot moved, and he appeared 5 meters forward from his location. He could see his movement and control was better. A smirk appeared on his face as Asher looked behind him. Before arriving at the spot, Asher had already performed the swift strike midway through. Right now, controlling the path was not something Asher could do simultaneously, but he would be able to do it soon. Finally getting the result he wanted, Asher left the training room as he was mentally drained and needed to sleep. But before going to bed, he messaged Alyssa to prepare to leave the World Academy tomorrow morning. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Did Helena find out somehow? Farnas was still thinking about how Asher had found out about one of his secrets. His best guess was Helena Raven, Asher's maternal grandmother, and the SS rank hunter, famous for her bloodline ability, which could read the memories of others. But it still didn't make sense to Farnas as to why Asher would know about this. If Helena had this information, she would have used it differently to pressure Farnas. Knock knock. Come in, Farnas said as Arman entered his office. What's with your sudden visit, Professor Arman? Farnas asked, raising his eyebrows and maintaining his calm look. In the faculty council meeting, we decided to invite some people to the World Academy for a special lecture of sorts. So many professors wanted to invite people through your connections, Arman replied politely. There were many changes, but many of them required the principal's permission before they could go forward with it. Oh, I can arrange for a joint class at the Mage Association. A sudden thought came to Farnas's mind. Why don't I invite Helena Raven to help you with a special lecture on Black Element? Farnas said, but Arman became suddenly nervous. But a person like her would never agree. He tried to maintain his calm. Why not? Her grandchildren are here as well, and I am sure she would like to meet them too, Farnas said, and Arman could only nod at him. I will invite her myself, Farnas said, contemporary romance. He wanted to see how Helena would behave in front of him if she also knew about the secret. But, of course, Farnas would take a different approach if that was the case. He could not believe Asher based on his words alone, but if even Helena didn't know about it, it meant that Asher's source was different. Then I will leave, Arman said as he left the office. Farnas looked at the documents in front of him. So, who is the mastermind behind it all? He started guessing some names, but until he confirmed who they were, he could not move. Less than 4 years left. It will end quickly, Asher Greville, the old man laughed slightly. It was when Asher would graduate from the World Academy, and Farnas would be released from his restrictions that didn't allow him to harm the students while they were studying at the World Academy. It's a bit sad that such a talent made the worst mistake of his life, Farnas put on a sad face. Asterisk 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 asterisk. The next day, Alyssa was waiting in the lobby for Asher. She had come down a bit earlier than planned, and as usual, she was sitting in her wheelchair with her disguise on. Asher came down after a few minutes and saw Alyssa, who was waiting for him. They both went to the exchange portal and took the one that led to the outer area of the World Academy. In a few minutes, they reached the special area used for teleporting people out of the World Academy. Security was tight, and after having their identities checked, Alyssa and Asher arrived inside the facility containing the teleportation gate that would lead them to Soren. Your stay outside is limited to a maximum of 1 week, the staff member told Asher as they stepped into the teleportation gate. Outside the portal dome situated in Soren was a single black car with a woman standing in front of it wearing formal clothing. It was Emmy, who was waiting for Asher to arrive at the portal dome soon enough. Currently, she was working for Asher, and because he was the heir of the family, she no longer reported his activities to his parents. That was one of the rules in the Greville family that made them a bit different from other elite families. The heir of the family was allowed to move on their own, but Arthur and Sylvie could still get information about Asher's movements if they wanted to. However, they would not ask Emmy about him because he was in World Academy. Asher stepped out of the portal dome and saw Emmy waiting outside his car, with his driver still inside. Alyssa was following Asher in her wheelchair, but she was wearing a hoodie that concealed her pink hair. It was not apparent, but social media had gone crazy when they saw a person related to the Garcia family attending World Academy. But the news died as the clash between two SSS rank hunters took over. Emmy looked at Alyssa but didn't react at all. Her job was to assist Asher, not advise him, so she just glanced over Alyssa's existence without reacting unless Asher did it first. Emmy, take us to the villa, Asher said as he directed Alyssa to sit in the car with him. This was not one of the villas that Asher had bought in the dungeon, but a different one he had purchased anonymously using his connections. As you wish, young master. Emmy opened the door for Asher and Alyssa to get in, and the car moved towards the villa. Is Tom already there? Asher asked Emmy as he brought out a laptop from his spatial ring. Yes, young master, Emmy replied from the front seat. It was an hour's drive to reach the villa, but not much conversation happened in the car. The room you requested is the right one from that hallway, Emmy pointed as she stood at the entrance of the villa. They went to the hallway when Alyssa heard a strange voice that sounded like a person, but she ignored it as it only appeared once. She didn't notice Emmy manipulating the wind to cut off the noises, so she thought she had misheard something. Let's move in, Asher said as Alyssa entered a large room comparable to the boss room she had seen in the dungeon. It was an underground facility built specially to store monsters, and usually, only guild halls or buildings made to harvest monsters had such rooms. You can place the boss monster there, Asher said as he pointed to the middle of the room. Yeah, this is the artifact I got from the dungeon, Alyssa said as she brought out the ring-shaped artifact. Asher looked at the ring, and the system started analyzing it. Analyzing the artifact. Zixter's ring. Description. A ring adorned with intricate runes that enhance the wearer's affinity with the spatial element. Having been exposed to the ebbs and flows of spatial law, the runes have captured a minuscule essence of this enigmatic lore within the ring. Pipe. Rank B. Increases spatial mastery. Limitations. Doesn't work for spells above rank B. Spatial mastery. Asher looked at the strange ring in his palm. Apart from the unknown runes carved on it, it was similar to other artifacts, but there was no such artifact that increased your mastery of the spatial element. Despite not giving any intelligence stat, this ring was helpful for both Asher and Alyssa. But Asher had a way of increasing his intelligence, and his sword art also depended on it. However, for Alyssa, this artifact was something that would help her a lot in reducing the mental drain she was experiencing. But what was more surprising for Asher was that a rank B artifact had come out of a rank C dungeon. Usually, rune masters would test the artifact to assess its rank if they could not decipher it from the runes alone, but the system could do it for Asher easily. Was it because of the curse? A thought came to his mind, but he could not confirm it. You can take this ring, Asher told Alyssa, but she was slightly surprised. I don't need it, and it was you that killed the boss anyway, Alyssa replied, thinking that it was something that Asher had earned himself. It will help your gravity magic, and I don't need it anyway. Asher tossed the ring to Alyssa, who caught it by slowing it down using her gravity magic. These days, Alyssa was practicing utilizing her gravity magic more accurately to merge both elements to create a stronger attack. Due to her getting the rank SSS elixir, she had no problem using her mana, but the mental strain was a slight problem for her. But it was not big enough to hinder her progress, so she ignored it the best she could. Then I will take it. I will put the boss there, Alyssa said as she stepped forward, and a huge dead body appeared before her. Contemporary romance. The majestic figure of the dead fireman still exuded pressure that made it clear that it was a powerful boss. I will practice here for now. I have arranged some things for you. Ask Emmy, and she will provide them, Asher turned and told Alyssa. Okay. Alyssa wanted to say something else but decided not to after thinking about it. Alyssa left the room shortly after saying that, making Asher turn and walk toward the dead boss monster. Asher raised the palm of his hands to touch the boss monster, and some words came out of his mouth. Absorb, he muttered as a thick, red-like aura started covering the beast, and at this moment, a strange tattoo on his back appeared. Host is absorbing AC plus rank monster. Host has gained plus 2/0 strength stats. Only partial absorption was possible due to a significant difference in stats. Partial. This was something Asher had already noticed in his dungeon runs when he had asked Emmy to bring a higher rank monster in front of him and let him kill it. At that time, Asher could not absorb a single stat, but now he had gained a lot of strength, which he could feel right now. If Asher didn't have the high intelligence stat he did, he would have had many issues recalibrating his body to feel natural when gaining power through such manners. The black tattoo was still present, but it disappeared as the red aura also vanished from the monster's body. Asher looked at the monster's corpse in front of him as he decided to pierce the heart of this monster. He had a slight hunch about something as he coated his sword with his aura. His increased strength made it easier for him to pierce the skin of the boss monster as he made a considerable cut around the heart region. Should be here. Asher's eyes looked for a certain mana gem as he brought out an orange-colored mana gem, which was probably at C rank from the amount of mana Asher could sense from it. It was apparent that the dungeon was unique, but the rewards make up for the increase in difficulty in Asher's mind. Although the system told him that even fate could not meddle in such a direct way to harm Asher, the price it paid was in the form of a cooldown that meant such an event would not happen anytime soon. Asher stood up because this was not the only thing he needed to do today. Although absorbing the boss monster was one of the reasons, there were other reasons Asher had come out of the World Academy. Asher exited the room and saw Emmy standing at the end of the hallway. "Did you give her the items?" Asher asked, and Emmy nodded. "Stay here and make sure nothing happens until I return," Asher said, but Emmy's expression changed. "But your security." She spoke out because leaving Asher alone was dangerous for him. "It's not needed, we will meet in the Abyss Corporation's building, so there will be no issues," Asher said, but it was not where he was going. "I will not repeat my order." His indifference made it hard for Emmy to refuse, but she could only nod her head. Asher moved out as he saw Tom, who was sitting in the living room while sipping on some coffee, as he was pretty tired from working all the time. "Good morning, boss." Tom stood up to greet Asher. "Did you find the locations?" Asher asked, and Tom nodded as he tapped something on his phone. "I have found two of the guys you were looking for," Tom said, but looking at his haggard eyes, one could imagine how difficult it was for him. "Only two, huh?" Asher looked at the profiles of the people Tom had sent him just now. Time to form Zephyr again, Asher thought in his mind. If Aztec was the company he opened to operate in the light that was visible for the whole world to see, then Zephyr was something that only Asher and its members would know about. A lot of his plans were not something even his family would appreciate if they learned it through Emmy, so he needed his own subordinates different from the people in the Greville family. It was not difficult for him to do so as well. He just needed to gather the guys that joined him in his previous life. "They were the only ones I could find in Somaria," Tom said. Although he could go meet them now, Asher had other stuff to handle right now. "Did you schedule the meeting with those people?" Asher asked. "Yeah, but they don't know your identity for now," Tom replied. "Doesn't matter. They don't have a choice either way," Asher said as both of them moved toward the car that was waiting for Asher. In a mansion near the border of Soren, three old men were drinking some wine as they chatted a bit. "Why don't you tell us why we have gathered here, Darren?" Another old man laughingly said while looking at the man sitting in the middle. Although it took months, Darren had arranged this secret meeting. "About 8 months ago. Nothing much. I wanted to introduce both of you to a new friend," Darren replied as he kept tapping his feet on the ground. He looked like a man in his late 40s, and all the other men gathered here were of a similar age as well. "New friend. Ha ha ha. Does he have similar tastes like us?" The man laughed as he lifted his glass. "Yeah, that's why I invited him to our club," Darren said. "But, it was surprising that you told us to meet in Soren. All our meetings happened outside of Somaria," the man said. Judging by the accessories in their hands, all three of them appeared to be people with fairly rich backgrounds. "When will this new friend arrive?" The man who asked Darren previously spoke out. "Soon," Darren said with a straight face. "That's a shame. I wanted to introduce a new product I got my hands on," another old man spoke out as he pulled a syringe from his coat. "Is that the new drug you told me about, Gemad?" The third man asked. "Yeah, apparently it's a booster, and it's going to land in the market soon," Gemad replied with a smirk. Guess who is behind this, Robert? Gemard asked. Who? Robert asked with a curious look on his face. There are rumors that some higher-ups of the World Association are involved, but it was quite hard for me to get my hands on this, Gemard said with a smirk on his face. But why bring it here? Darren asked, as this was supposed to be a casual meeting. Actually, I received a little news a week ago, Gemard started speaking. As you all know, most of us are somehow related to the Abyss Corporation, and they have no competition in Somalia. His words made Darren frown. What if you switch sides next year? This product will take over the market in the next few years, and we can ride on this train early and make big money, Gemard said with a confident look on his face. Have you gone mad, you bastard? Darren shouted, making everyone look at him. Do you know what will happen if what you said leaks? Darren's reaction made others a bit surprised. Contemporary romance. Most of them were already involved in shady stuff, and that was the reason they all were rich. Calm down, Darren. I am just suggesting an idea. Don't make a big deal out of it, Gemard replied, but he was also surprised by Darren's sudden actions. And when did you, the most corrupt bastard among us, become such a loyal dog? He asked, and Robert laughed as well. Give up on, Darren was speaking when the doors to the room opened. Oh, did the new member you were speaking about arrive? Robert asked, but his eyes went wide when a handsome-looking young man entered the room. His crimson eyes drifted to see the people present in this room. Red eyes, no way, Gemard's eyes went wide as he realized the identity of the young man. Ads by Pub Future. Others did as well and stood up from their seats immediately. What is the meaning of this, Darren? Robert shouted but stopped when he saw Darren, who was shaking in front of the young man who walked and took a seat on the empty sofa. Why stop? Continue your fun meeting, Asher said, but nobody stopped. Young master, Darren tried to speak but stopped as Asher looked towards him. Is the job done? Asher asked Darren. Yeah, I have done as you said, just spare my son. Darren fell to his knees in front of Asher. What is happening? Why is the heir of the Greville family here? Gemard got nervous, as did Robert. Both of them didn't know what was happening, but seeing Darren kneeling, they could guess the situation was not good. Although all three of them were C-to-B rank hunters themselves, knowing the identity of the man sitting in front of them, they didn't dare to move. Sit down, Mr. Darren. Why don't you explain what you have done for me? Asher said as Darren, whose hands were shaking, got up. His heartbeat was going crazy, but he looked around him. I have poisoned both of them as you wanted. Darren looked at Asher as he replied. I have done it, please spare my son, Darren begged in front of Asher. Tom, who was behind Asher, kept looking at the scene in front of him. A guy who looked like a 16-year-old was making a man more than twice his age tremble in fear against him. What do you mean by poison, you bastard? Robert dropped his glass to the floor. Sit down, all of you, Asher said as his killing intent took over the room. Only Tom was fine right now, but others' faces went pale as they faced a thick killing intent. They quietly sat down, but Gemard was trembling the most here. What is the meaning of all this? Gemard decided to speak out as he looked at Asher. Asher looked at all three of their faces and smirked in his mind. All of them were fairly rich people with connections spread all over the world, but here they were sitting without any security. It's bold of you to assume that you can ask me questions. Asher's indifferent face made Gemard nervous. You bastard, tell me what you have done, Robert shouted at Darren, who was not looking at them. Tom, give them the documents, Asher said as Tom moved and passed a single sheet of paper. What is this? Gemard looked at the sheet, but it was filled with all the crimes and illegal stuff Darren had committed, but strangely, their names were not present in the documents. Darren was a person who was one of the executives for the Abyss Corporation. You cannot do this to us, Asher Greville. We have our connections as well, Gemard tried to threaten Asher. Wait, Gemard. Young master, can you spare us? We were not involved with him. Robert stopped Gemard from doing something stupid. But in a second, Gemard started to feel a strong burn around his heart, and so did Robert. Arg! What is happening? Both of them grabbed their chests as the pain grew bigger. Well, let's get down to business. Seeing that the effects were kicking in, Asher decided to talk finally. I know that you're working with the Alistair family, Asher said as Gemard's face went pale. Did the information get leaked? Despite the pain he was experiencing, Asher's words shocked him. You want us to work for you, right? Robert asked. I will betray the Rothschild family as well. Just give me the antidote. Robert was smart enough to understand the meaning behind Asher's words. Poor old man, Tom pitied the man in front of him. I need time, but I will give you the information you need, Gemard said as he tried to look up. Both Gemard and Robert were involved with shady stuff that could damage the business of both the Rothschild and Alistair families. Mere steps, Asher disappeared from his seat. He appeared behind Darren, who was surprised by his speed. You want your son alive, right? Asher asked Darren. Yeah, please. He is innocent, Darren pleaded, but Tom's face changed. Your son is innocent. Tom got disgusted by Darren's blatant lie. Kill both of them and I will spare your son, Asher said to Darren, who was a B rank hunter. What the hell, bastard, Arg? Gemard tried to speak, but the poison was making it harder for him to breathe. I will do a mana oath, spare me, I have a family, they will die without me, Robert pleaded while barely looking up. Family, what a joke, Tom looked at Robert. All three of them were nothing more than human scum in Tom's eyes. I can't, Darren stuttered, but Asher brought out a hologram screen that showed his son sitting in an empty room. Well, then he will have to die, Asher said, but Darren stood up. Immediately. No, I will do it, Darren said again as he turned to face Robert and Gemard. Wait, why kill us? We can have a deal, Robert shouted with tears in his eyes. Asher's eyes looked at the two men pleading at him. A certain face of a man popped into his head. You are not worth it, Asher said as Darren moved with his trembling hands. No, Darren. Stop, don't kill me. We have been friends for years, Robert said. So sorry, I can't let my son die, Darren said while his hands were trembling. Darren, you bastard, Gemard shouted as Darren plunged the dagger into Robert's chest multiple times. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Asher came out of the mansion while none of the security that worked for Darren stopped him. Tom looked at Asher with a strange look on his face. He couldn't believe that a young man like him could witness a murder so calmly as before. But those men deserved it, so it doesn't matter to me, Tom said to himself. Boss, should we go meet those guys? Tom asked Asher. Yeah, we have prepared the gift already, Asher said with a smirk as he sat in his car with Tom. In another city in Somalia, two men were moving as they ran away from a bunch of people. Damn it, I told you that it was not a good idea to kill that guy, one of the two men shouted. Shut up, just keep running, the other replied as he smiled.